Hello, BookTube, and welcome to Poetry Tuesday. I have a lovely poem to read you today. I was not going to pick this one. I was, once again, going to return to the Norton Anthology of Poetry, anthology that I had out the other day. I figured it would be good for a week of readings. And things have distracted me from it every single time that I've tried to go back to it. And today's distraction came from perhaps the least likely place imaginable. It came from Twitter. I know. I usually view Twitter, very rightfully, as a poisonous cesspit. But I found a poem today in my feed. I didn't go looking for it. Someone in my feed posted a poem and said, in the midst of everything else that I'm sure is in your timeline, the way it is in mine, I thought maybe you might want to read this and take a deep breath. And I did, and it worked, and I'm hoping that it works for you. This is by Seamus Heaney. The late great Irish poet Seamus Heaney, and it's called The Peninsula. When you have nothing more to say, just drive for a day all round the peninsula. The sky is tall as over a runway, the land without marks, so you will not arrive but pass through, always skirting landfall. At dusk, horizons drink down sea and hill, the plowed field swallows the whitewashed gable, and you're in the dark again. Now recall the glazed foreshore and the silhouetted log, that rock where breakers are shredded to rags, the leggy birds stilted on their own legs, islands riding themselves out into the fog. And drive back home, still with nothing to say, except that now you will uncode all landscapes by this: things founded clean on their own shapes, water and ground in their extremity. Which I don't know if you could tell from my reading, but it is loaded with built-in rhymes, with all sorts of buried and explicit end rhymes and midline rhymes and whatnot. It's a lilting piece of verse, in other words, just liltingly lovely, in an understated, quiet, workaday kind of way, as all of this poet's verse is. And I read that and did indeed take a deep breath. I have done what is described in the poem here many times. I have done that many times. In fact, I did it today, early this morning. I got some just annoying, depressing news, and I carried it around with me all day like an oddly shaped thing in your pocket, or a tag that's bothering you on some piece of clothing. And when the time came, I decided to go out walking in the wilderness with you-know-who. We went out walking in the wilderness without a care in the world, without a cell phone, which was a big mistake. That's always a big mistake. If you're going to be covering ground and scrambling over rocks and descending into ravines, even if they're shallow ravines, you want to have a cell phone with you. I didn't. I left all of it behind, just everything behind. And of course, I left English behind, not just the speaking of it, but the thinking in it. I left all of that behind. It was the rocks and the sea, or not it was the water, in this case a brook, and the ground and the rocks and the trees and my companion who does not speak English and does not know English. And it was a wonderful thing to, as the poem says, uncode all landscapes by that. When the world is complicating up, when it's tangling up, moments like that, doing that, walking out where nothing is interfering with you, where nothing is weighing on you at all, that really does give you a little bit of a ring code to uncode everything else, to uncode all the complexity. You go back and you still, as the poem says, you still have nothing to say. The poem starts with when you have nothing to say, nothing more to say, and it ends with still nothing to say. I think that indicates in the poem that the figure in the poem who's being spoken to is coming from and then going back to maybe contention, argument, ill will. So the nothing more to say becomes a little bit jagged there. But either way, whether I'm reading that into the poem or not, there's that feeling of go out to a place that only knows itself, that doesn't have any of the other complications. How is it put here? Except that now you will uncode all landscapes by this: things founded clean on their own shapes. There's a tremendous amount of refreshment in that, and it sticks with you even once you're back. it sticks with you. It did with me, and it did with me, and largely thanks to, I forget who posted this. Someone posted the Peninsula on Twitter, of all places. Someone wanted Twitter to be less of a cesspool. More power to them. That's what I say. So that's our poem for today. Seamus Heaney, wasn't seeing that coming. Hopefully we will get back to one of my anthologies next time, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.